little fly. You shouldn't have returned. I don't want to... I didn't think you had the gall. An uppercut? Really? Well, I guess it's your funeral. You can decide whatever final action you'd like. Come now. Do you think I'd let you hit me again? That was a critically wrong move, little fly. Oh, don't lose your courage now. You've started a fight, and it has to be finished. Here, why don't I clip the fly's wings? Incredible. All that confidence fits in such a fragile body. You'd better hope that the adrenaline is enough to keep you conscious, because I know exactly what I'm gonna do with you. Wow, I didn't think you'd be able to dodge with one leg out of commission. You're just full of surprises, aren't you? Tell me, do you have another trick up your sleeve? Or did you really come unprepared and alone? Not the best plan, if you ask me. Human, I think you'll find that my exoskeleton is a little too thick for a punch to penetrate. That hit to my head was a pot shot. Now that I'm fighting, you don't stand a chance. My pedipalps are sensitive. You know what? I'm tired of this game. Didn't dodge that one, did you, little fly? And now, I can just watch you fade. Oh, what's wrong? Oh, you can't climb on walls, can you? Well, I suppose you'll just crumble on my cave's floor then. Or maybe you could try to run. But that would hardly be a fair chase. I've caught you before. And now, you're in much worse condition. I imagine you have a matter of seconds before my venom renders you unconscious. Then, we can have some real fun. Ah, there's my favorite look of panic. Do you realize how few options you have left? You could try to jump up to me. Quite the fruitless endeavor on one leg. You could start running, and no doubt collapse in a few feet. Or, you could lay down and accept death. What'll it be? Looks like the decision is about to be made for you. I'm sure you're familiar with the feeling of my venom in your veins. Why don't you greet it like the old friend that it is? And down falls the fly. Now, we can play a new game. Welcome back to the land of the living, fly. Don't worry. Your stay here will be short. I saw you stir, but you've yet to open your eyes. Too afraid to see what I have in store for you? It's probably the venom, still working through your system, isn't it? Well then, allow me to set the scene. As I'm sure you can feel, I've got you harnessed. Your bonds are all intertwined and draped over a tree branch. The only thing holding you in the air is me. You're not hanging over the ground, mind you. You're dangling over quite the steep drop. Remember that cliff I chased you to when we first met? The one that had almost no water at the bottom? The one that would be a near guarantee of death if you fell down it? I'll take your silence as a yes. So we're here, alone together, and I can kill you just by releasing my grip. Quite the predicament you found yourself in, no? I want you to answer me, little fly. The only reason you're still alive is that I wish to talk. If you've gone mute, then I'll dispose of you. Ah, it speaks. And a question, no less. Sadly, it's not the fly's turn to talk. I only wanted to ask one thing. Then, I'll be dropping you, and you can try to say your prayers before you hit the ground. Why couldn't you leave me alone? Every way I see it, your demise was the only possible outcome. What was your goal? Are you some sort of masochist? Funny, but that's not an answer. I know the threat of death may not be the best motivator to speak. So tell you what, if you answer my question, and your answer is at least a little bit fun, I'll bite you again, and you won't have to feel the pain when you hit the rocks. Stubborn little bug, aren't you? Fine. I don't need an answer as much as I need you out of my hair. And clearly, you can't be trusted to simply leave me alone. Any last words? Something bitter to make me regret your death, maybe? Determined to the end. Respectable. But not enough to save you. Goodbye, human. I don't want you to read into this, human. I'm not doing this because I like you. Yes, you're on a web. I had a thin one under you, as sort of a safety net. I didn't think you'd actually call my bluff. Because I don't want to kill you. I already told you that. I don't want to kill anyone. I'm not very fond of murder, believe it or not. Yes, I've hurt you. I have no problem with violence, I just simply detest taking life. I put that life behind me. Killing that elk for the wolves is the most murder I've done in a century. I usually subsist on fruits and vegetables. Maybe a little honey if I find a hive. I don't hunt anything. I don't think you want to know why. It's not a fun story by any means, and I don't like telling it. If I tell you, will you leave? Maybe? You've already grown so cheeky. Fine. Get comfortable. It's a sizable tale, but I'll summarize. Driders are much smaller when we're born. We're a little fluffy, we've got big eyes. One might even say we're cute. I'm a runt, believe it or not. One of 247 of us hatchlings. 9 of us were too small, too weak, That's why my venom is non-lethal. It's a birth defect. Driders have lots of kids because most of them die. We're incredibly vulnerable when we're young, and there's too many of us for a single mother to keep tabs on, so my mother had to cut her losses and hedge her bets. Runts couldn't be given a chance, couldn't be afforded protection. I was forced to leave the cave and was expected to starve alone. But the luckiest thing happened to me. A woman was picking berries in the forest, and she came across me, no more than a foot tall, cold, alone, hungry. She took pity on me. She brought me back to her village and raised me as her son. I grew up quickly. All Driders do. A couple of years and I reached adolescence. I was already bigger than most of the humans in the village. My teeth had started to grow in, and I needed quite a bit of food. I had no qualms against animal murder at the time, so I simply hunted often. I grew quite adept. My webs were invisible, my technique perfect. I even sharpened my front legs to ensure I could finish what my venom started. My skill became worrying. The other villagers didn't like it, didn't like me. But my mother kept them at bay. She cited the good I did for the community and how I'd never harmed a human. She eased their minds, for a time. Soon, I was full grown. I was at my peak. My mother, on the other hand, was all too human. I knew I'd outlive her. Even if she had been young, her lifespan simply wasn't comparable to mine. But I consoled myself. She wasn't that old. I thought I'd still have a decade or so to treat her to the life she deserved. I'd learned to skin my catches, and we were making a pretty penny trading the furs. With my help, she'd be able to retire in luxury. I'd care for her as she had me. I should say this was a few hundred years ago. Mage medicine was a bleeding-edge invention. So, when a plague came, and my mother caught it, she didn't stand a chance. I cared for her as she passed. She lived a full life and she died happily. She was an incredible woman. One little problem emerged as she was dying. She was sick, but the rest of the young, spry village was relatively unaffected, including myself. My biology made me immune to the plague, so I could neither spread it nor show symptoms. Her, being the kind woman she was, insisted on staying inside and didn't allow a single visitor, except me. Some nasty rumors spread. The humans said I was killing her, slowly and sadistically, that I had her tied up in there, and that's why she wouldn't have any visitors. And without her to quell their fears, they started to worry that my violent tendencies would fall on them next. They were going to kill me, and maybe I would have killed them, but my mother made me promise to spare them. So I fled. Those bastards wouldn't even let me stay by my mother's side as she passed. I wanted to do awful things to them. But I made my oath. I had sworn off killing humans for my late mother's sake. Over the years, my willingness to kill faded. I thought about what it meant to take a life, what the difference between a human life and any other actually was, what my mother would think of me if she saw the things I did when I hunted. So, I allowed my hands to forget their skill. I decided I would take work as a blacksmith or maybe a scholar, anything that would earn a wage without killing, but despite my best efforts, I never found a town that would accept a Drider. I started living in caves, as my ancestors had, until I came upon this forest a few weeks ago. It was perfect. The fruit trees alone could sustain me. But there was one furry problem. If the werewolves ever came knocking, there would be no way I could bring myself to kill them. I'd be forced to flee the best home I'd ever find. I tried to act threateningly. I hoped the wolves wouldn't realize that I was a little shorter than the average Drider. Then, one night, I saw you, and I hatched a plan to deliver me to safety. And that's my story so far. Yes, I suppose from a certain point of view, you were never in any real danger. If the werewolves had become violent, I doubt I would have let them kill you. You were always going to make it out alive. I'm sorry about your leg. I know your injury will make it hard for you to walk to civilization. If you want, I'll allow you one more night here. I'll find some herbs and make you a crutch so you can leave in the morning. I should mention, if you're staying here, you have to stay in my cave. I can't have the facade falling apart now. Alright, let me carry you there. You can close your eyes and get some rest.